Thank you all for joining us today. For those of you who are new to our webinars, here's a brief overview of what to expect. Today's session is based on the upcoming State of the Video Creator Tools Economy report set to be released in mid-July. The webinar will run approximately 1 hour and will feature a 14-minute keynote presentation by Ben Woods, who's Media's video analyst, followed by a 35-minute panel discussion. If you have any questions during the webinar, please submit them via the comment section and we will address them in the Q&A segment at the end. Thank you again for joining us today, and I'll now hand over to Ben Woods.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. It's really exciting to have you here today to reveal our new research stream around video creator tools. We've been working on this for quite a few months now, so to finally share some of the data points is a really exciting moment for us. For those of you who aren't too familiar with media, we've been really focused on consumer creation and its role with entertainment consumption for quite a few years now, especially when it comes to social video platforms and music. So it's only natural that we would start to look in more detail at the video creator tool space. And let's face it, video is involved in everything and is everywhere now. So it's the perfect opportunity to start doing that. So let's dive into the keynote presentation then. And I want to take you through, first of all, just some of the creator profiles that emerged from the video creator survey that we did right at the beginning of this research process. And what emerged quite clearly was this sort of trifurcation around different creators and their needs. And really, those different creator profiles are also moving between these need and demands of either speed or control. So first of all, let's just take a look at the left-hand side and look at speed. And these are our sort of marketing and enterprise creators, what I like to call our social focused streamliners. And they're actually a really exciting a new part of the video creator tool space. These are creators that perhaps are willing to sacrifice a little bit of creativity in favor of reaching their audiences at speed and at scale and using data to refine their approach. And then I'm going to bring you to our social video creators. These are our creators that sit in the middle. They want to, and it's very important to them actually, to get better at producing videos, and they want to learn how to do that. But at the same time, they are juggling multiple roles. They are having to focus on graphic design and sourcing royalty-free music. There are strained creators who want video creator tools which are going to help them interact with audiences, help them reach their creativity faster, and basically free up time so they can focus on what they love doing, which is creating videos. And then on the far side, we've got our movie and TV editors, our quality-driven technicians. Now, don't get me wrong, this part of the sector is just as interested in streamlining processes. They would like to get rid of some of those laborious production tasks, but they don't want that to come at the expense of their creative control. They want to continue to be able to use tools and finesse what they're doing. And that means having the whole playbook in front of them and not streamlining every single process going forward. Now, I talk about this because this is the picture that lies before us around a democratized video landscape. And this is the challenge and the opportunity for video creator tools going forward. How does the market address the needs of all these different creators and help them get that speed when they need it and get that creative control when they need it? And the really great thing that I can reveal to you today is that we've got a number. We've got a number for the number of global video creators out there. This is for 2023, 302.7 million video creators. This is what it looks like when you've had video creation democratized through smartphones and social video platforms and all that demand for content that's come from the streaming TV services in recent years. Really interesting thing is that actually when we've been looking at this picture going forward to 2031, is that video creators are going to continue to take a greater share of the total creator space. It just shows that video creator tools are so important to the overall creator playbook going forward. And just to give you a little taster, this is just a little snippet of what's to come in our report. So we're going to have video creator survey data, really getting into those behaviors and tools, use cases, global number like we've got here going up to 2031. And then we're also going to look at the income side for creators through advertising revenue and subscription and tipping as well. So on the revenue side, let's have a look at the number. So 13.8 billion dollars worth of revenue in 2023, driven by software and hardware creator tools. It will be no surprise that the majority of that is coming from the software side. But what is interesting going forward is that we are seeing AI tools gradually take over and become a much more dominant part of that revenue mix for software and hardware going forward, overtaking video editing revenues and live streaming revenues as well. And what about hardware? Well, hardware's had a bit of a tough time of late, given the Hollywood strikes and macroeconomic pressures from high interest rates and inflation. That's knocked some consumer demand and led to some destocking among retailers. But hardware is definitely bouncing back, and it's going to have solid growth going forward for 2031. Yes, AI and software is going to threaten, disintermediate and threaten part of hardware, but hardware is also going to have its own AI, an innovation moment through robotics. And we believe that the demand for creative control from creators will continue to drive a real good solid demand for hardware going forward. And just to break it down, we're going to have software revenues and hardware revenues from creative tools, AI tools, live streaming, video editing, and for audio, camera equipment, and cameras as well. So what's going to drive that innovation going forward? Well, it's going to be AI, but we know that actually it's not just one specific area, but we think it's 3 areas now when we've been doing this research. So we'll all be familiar with that disruptive AI text to video services that have come forward that are going to really widen the funnel. They're going to allow creators who've perhaps got no production talent to be able to start creating videos, bringing them into the marketplace and providing an opportunity to sell them creative tools going forward. However, there will be a challenge because these creators will be able to create pretty high quality content right out of the bat. So how do video creator tools companies inspire them to want to learn different tools and techniques going forward, which is kind of going to be key to monetizing these creators in the future? Well, perhaps AI co-pilots and AI assistants can play a really key role here. They're already in the marketplace today, but I think they are middlemen which are going to really help actually creators reach their goals and get a lot closer to the creative intent of those creators going forward. And if we go back to those profiles, that's what's really important here. Creator tools companies need to understand what the creator's intent is at the beginning, so they can know whether or not they want to streamline a process or get their hands on those tools and start really finessing the end output. And then the final, create to consume. Well, this is going to be potentially very disruptive. A new app which is in beta testing at the moment, which is being dubbed the Netflix of AI. It's called Showrunner. It allows consumers to create TV and movies through AI video generators. This has the potential to really shorten that whole Hollywood production cycle into a technological process. And what that's going to mean is that creating to consume is going to become a much more mainstream behavior potentially going forward, which will open up undoubtedly opportunities for video creator tools. The question will be will this be taken up, and will this pose a real threat in terms of time spent with streaming TV services? So the opportunity then, well, we think it's around features. Features are going to be really important to monetization and retention going forward. You perhaps would have realized this on the video creation side, and we can tell you that 58% of video creators that we surveyed as part of this research said features and benefits are the main factor for when paying for software and services. But it's this number on the right, which I think is really important, that 23% of entertainment consumers who said they would consider paying for upgraded editing tools on social platforms going forward. So there's a clear demand and there's an appetite to pay for features going forward. The challenge will be tapping into that in the right way with consumers as well as video creators going forward. So just to sum up, speed versus control. All video creators want varying degrees of speed and control, and the challenge video creator tools industry going forward is understanding how to respond to those needs on a user-by-user basis. AI will help, of course, in some regard, but the industry must not lose sight of that principle underpinning the creator economy, which is creating is a form of entertainment and is something that people take pleasure in. It can't become a content assembly line. Video creation is dominant. Video creators are taking a greater share of that total creator base going forward, and that's only going to continue with AI and the innovations in that side of the marketplace. Software is the revenue powerhouse driving the video creator tools economy. But despite that, what we found is video creators aren't cutting back on hardware kit at the moment. So hardware is proving resilient and is likely to be so going forward. And finally, AI creator tools would transform that value chain. It has the potential to put video creation at the front and center of consumption going forward. That showrunner example I gave you, and in terms of distribution, which are going to make tools and features a ubiquitous part of the video entertainment engagement in the future. And with that, I will now hand over to my colleague, Tim Mulligan, who will start getting into the details with our great panel of guests that we have here today. Over to you, Tim.
Thanks, Ben. A lot for us to dive into in our panel discussion. So what we're going to do is each of the panel members are going to introduce themselves briefly, their roles and their companies, and then we're going to get straight into the questions. So Scott, would you like to go first?
Sure, sounds great. Thanks for having us here today, and hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. My name is Scott Levine. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Brightcove. Brightcove is the most trusted streaming technology company in the world. Our goal, our mission, is to be there for all companies to wow and delight their audiences, to empower, to educate, to entertain, to inform, wherever they are, whenever they want it. And we do that by taking the content that you have, helping you to create it better, more of it, bringing that, enhancing it, distributing it to the places you want, the users, the viewers, the platforms, and then giving you the insights to understand how that's engaging them so that you can keep doing that and making it better. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Scott. Matt, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, if I find the unmute button. Thank you very much for having me. So hi, I'm Matt Collins. I'm the head of product at Krotos. We're an audio technology company. Initially started in Edinburgh, which is where I find myself right now. We make audio tools for creators and professionals. We've been at the core of big IP, things like Game of Thrones, Avengers, and many, many other things that you've either played, seen, or heard, hopefully. And we deal with most game and TV studios worldwide in providing them audio solutions to help them work at speed and creatively. And we're really interested in broadening that vision and bringing down the barrier of entry for people using sound in all forms of media.
Great, thanks, Matt. Terry, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm Terry Morgan. I'm the co-founder of LumaTouch. We make LumaFusion, which is the top-ranked professional video editing app for iOS, iPads, Android, Chromebook, and Silicon Macs. And I am also, as my role at LumaTouch, a passionate creator and a video editor of 40 years. To keep my head in the creator space, I contribute to our channels regularly with a series called The Curious Editor that focuses on creativity. So I'm very passionate about creativity and what that means to the creator.
Thank you, Terry. And Vikram, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, awesome. Thank you. It's great to be here. My name is Vikram. I'm the CEO at Pictory.ai. And Pictory finds ourselves in that hurricane that Ben just mentioned, the AI video creator space, and it's we started about 5 years ago, before there was ChatGPT or anything like that. But the goal for us was to make video creation in an organization easy, involve a lot more people to be creators of video, because we see video as the next communication mechanism, and we all are here because of that. So we're trying to make it easy. We're trying to become the Canva for video creator and video editing, and that's kind of the journey we're on for the last 5 years.
Thank you, Vikram. So that nicely segues into the proverbial elephant in the room for this conversation, AI. So Ben's made some big calls about AI and the impact it's going to have. All of my fellow panelists have perspectives on AI and have to consider how AI is going to impact or provide accelerated opportunities for their businesses. So I'd like to start with you, Matt. So, Matt, I know you have a view of what AI is doing from the creative perspective, from a first wave into a second wave, and the opportunities that are opening up, but also the challenges for how to harness that creative potential that AI is driving. Would you be able to talk a bit more about that, and then tell us more about how Krotos is looking at AI as that big disruptive and potentially enabling part of the video creator tool landscape, please?
Sure. Yeah. All right. Well, I think the first wave of AI tools has come over, like everyone, over in a massive wave over the last 18 months or beyond. I think it's gone from 0 to 100 very, very fast. People are still really figuring out how it's going to work, how it's going to apply to the businesses, how it applies to their creativity. It's even this week been really interesting to see how even some of those tools are being received within the industry. So, for example, within the extremely popular music creation tools that were out in the world creating millions and millions of tracks a week, now they're under sort of mitigate like legal action from various companies now, even this week. So all this stuff is really changing. The second wave for me, for a lot of AI technology, is really going to be about customization and control, like deeper control of AI outputs. So I think that's something that is really, really exciting. That first wave of AI tools really allows you to get a certain distance, I think, into a creative result. The real challenge, I think, from us as technologists and consumers is really going to be like how you offer people like the exact control over these powerful tools for them to get exactly what they're looking for. That's definitely something that really fascinated with. A lot of our tools and our approach is about changing the way that people work with sound, particularly trying to make it a kind of more amorphous, performable thing rather than a fixed thing that you edit and you cut laboriously. I think that's very much a kind of paradigm, even from 1950s or earlier. The way that we work with sound and video is very much you take something that's fixed and you edit it, you cut it, you chop it, and you move it around, rather than it being this free-flowing amorphous material, which I think is where AI is kind of taking us. So I think the second wave, the next generation of tools and the next steps in this world that we kind of find ourselves in is really about control, performance, and all this type of stuff. I don't think we're quite there yet, but I'd like to think that we're kind of part of that.
And how is Krotos positioning itself to be able to adapt to this potentially emerging reality as you see it?
Sure. So we're building a tool called Krotos Studio, which is out there right now. And we're continuing to iterate on that. We've got a load of really exciting AI features coming out really in the next couple of months. But all the work that we're doing really focuses on building systems using AI technology that users can then interact with. So rather than, for example, just producing a fixed audio file that someone can listen to and whether that's correct or not, which is kind of what existing sound libraries, for example, already do, we use AI to produce an interactive system so the user can then jump from that into the exact thing they're looking for. So it's using AI to create another layer that the user then interacts with in more detail. That's our approach, and that's people seem to be really enjoying that so far.
Thanks. So Vikram and Scott, I know you both have very important applications for AI from slightly different perspectives. So I'd like to start with you, Scott, and I'd like you to be able to share with the panel and our audience how Gen I is powering your approach to the enterprise opportunity for creator tools at Brightcove.
Thanks, Tim. So when we look at AI, we started with it's part of how we do most of the solutions that we offer. So it's part of everything. And it starts with this vision that says, we want to enable people to create content, right? Let's give them the tools that allow them to create content. Vikram is going to probably talk a little bit more about that in a second, about how his company does that. You've heard about all these other tools that are coming out there from Ben a few minutes ago. That's going to super serve this content creation funnel at the beginning. But it takes us to the next step, which is now what do you do with that? It's the greatest thing in the world if you create all this video, but if it's not discoverable, not findable by anybody, not enhanced, not cut to the way that that audience wants versus that other audience, you're missing out on an opportunity as a marketer, as a brand, as an enterprise, even if it's internal for your own employees, right? You want to maximize that. So it's that second bucket that you start saying, how do we enhance metadata? How do you make it personal to each of those users? Then you take it to the final bucket. And now it's saying, okay, I'm getting all this data that's telling me about my audience. It's telling me about what's going on. How do I take that back and inform and automate using AI all the content creation to give the signals back to the content creator? So the use case I always talk about with people is imagine asking a Gen AI toolset to build you 10 videos of somebody using a hammer, right? That's great. Those videos may be very similar, may look a little bit, but how are you going to differentiate those 10 videos to get your audience to engage with it? And that's where Brightcove is stepping in and saying, let's enhance the metadata to make sure it targets your users. Then let's give you the data that says, you know what? If you take that video and make it 10 seconds shorter, you're going to be engaging more with your audience. And let's have the AI even make that recommendation and maybe even make the suggestion with the editorial control, so you never lose your voice and your brand along the way. That's how we're thinking about it. Is this content creation engine is going to be incredible. We're going to see this keep growing. How do we make it more valuable and more unique and more differentiated for all the brands and enterprises out there and all the content creators?
Thanks, Scott. So that was the follow-up question to that, or the follow-up observation rather, is we perhaps think about AI as being a creative catalyst or a creative disruptor to the creative process. And Terry, I'm going to come to you after Vikram, because I know you've got a strong point of view on what this might mean for the video ecosystem going forwards. But Scott, it sounds like the opportunity is actually to create, to use generative AI to open up video to enterprises, to creators who might not previously have had the bandwidth or the resources to do it. But if you can go that extra level, you gave the example of the 10 different versions of the hammer video. If you can do that cost effectively, that creates a whole new market opportunity for video as we look forwards.
100%. And all the tools and the creation that Ben talked about, and I'm confident Vikram is going to speak about in a moment, is that creates this opportunity for the people that have never done it before, for the enterprises that have never done it before, for the creators, for the internal comms that couldn't get over that barrier. And then as you get across your spectrum of the three buckets of the different users, giving them that engine of automation, of insights, of, hey, your users are slightly different than what you thought when you started creating this video, allows you to inform to get better. By the way, that's one of the big missions and values of both our company and also when you look at of Gen AI in general, is to get better and optimize over time.
Got it. So Vikram, Pictory is in many ways founded on AI and the opportunities around AI. And I know you were in your introduction, you talked about how you were in the AI storm at the moment, and you've kind of seen a number of different perspectives of what it's like to have that label of being AI at the heart of what you do, how it can help, but also potentially be a challenge. Could you talk through a bit more about how AI is actually utilized in the Pictory offering, and then the opportunities and the challenges being a company that is incorporating that into your strategic roadmap going forwards?
Yeah, so happy to talk about kind of how we leverage AI in this video creation process right now. So of course, when we started, this whole generative video, generative imagery wasn't there. There was no generative text either. So, but we kind of wanted to keep AI in the middle of our product. And the way we started that was we felt a lot more people wanted to create videos, but they didn't know where to start. They didn't have there was a blank slate problem. They would go into Adobe Premiere or tools like that, and they would not know where to begin. So we said, okay, here's the one thing you could do is you have tons of content that you're already sitting on. Can you repurpose that to start creating a video? So that's where we started. We said, okay, you have blogs, you have white papers, you have so much content that you've created, PowerPoint slides. Could you use that as a starting point for video? And perhaps what AI can do is help you understand that content and convert that to a video. So that's kind of where we started, and that's the journey we're on, is this whole idea of repurposing existing material and making videos out of it. So if you have a blog, for example, our AI would summarize that blog and get key messages. Then you have, like, say, it becomes 100-word summary of the blog. Then what we do is we understand that further, and we try to match stock visuals to that text. So that's proprietary matching and search technology that we've built that then stitches those stock visuals together and creates a story. Then it adds music automatically on top, adds a voiceover narration using text to speech, and we put it all together, and literally in a matter of minutes, you have a video that you've created from starting with a blog. And another use case that we saw that our customers were again pulling us for is, I have all these long form podcasts and these webinar recordings that I want to create shorter versions that are more consumable on social channels. So again, AI to the rescue. We basically transcribe that whole thing, and using the transcription, we find the most interesting sections of the text, and then we segment that and create interesting shorts from a long form video. And what I'd love to do kind of as our roadmap item is what Scott just mentioned, because what we don't have right now is any indication of how the videos performed, what did better, and feed that back into the creative process. So Scott, we need to talk about a partnership opportunity here, because that's kind of how this works.
I love it. Completing the wheel, feeding the
Yes.
data back. That's what Brightcove does, what you do.
Yeah. And then, Tim, your other question was about challenges of AI. So, of course, before all this Gen AI LLM stuff, we were using the old generation models from Google and the like BERT and Elmo and all that stuff. And now we've all kind of moved on to LLMs. So that's good. That's all very good. The thing about some of the challenges are, training data, having control over that data, keeping that in-house versus in the cloud. That's obviously one challenge that I know a bunch of enterprise customers ask for. And then the other is the hype cycle, because there was a lot of hype around AI last year, and and riding that hype cycle, making sure your systems were, performant, and then the second part of the hype cycle is the dip, and dealing with the dip, and then finally we're getting into this enlightenment zone that where we're actually creating real value for customers.
And is it where you want it to be now? Is AI where you believe it needs to be able to drive the business going forwards?
Oh, there's a lot more that needs to happen in the AI world, that in the model building world, like even the generative AI, that's Hammer example that Scott gave. I don't think it'll generate a good video right now. I mean, of course, we haven't played with Sora, but there are similar models out there that they're a long way from generating something meaningful. Again, long is very relative in the AI terms. Maybe next year you'll have really good models, and we can build that. But yes, there's a lot more that still is to be desired. We have a lot of customers who make educational videos, and that's a special type of video where you're sometimes it's like Khan Academy style videos where you're hand drawing stuff, and I see that far from the AI frontier yet.
Got it. So we're looking at the the kind of optimistic uses of AI. But Terry, I know you've got a strong perspective on the potential disruptive impact for AI for the middle tier of video creators. Could you talk a bit more about that, and also talk about the importance of creativity and serendipity in the overall video production, something that is potentially being lost by this rush to embrace AI?
Well, I don't want to undermine what the three gentlemen are talking about, because there is that huge segment as you noted, the three segments, and there's one that really isn't already addicted to the joy of being creative, and they need something to create video quickly. But there has always been two parts in the process of creating media. One is the actual creative flow, which I'll talk about, and the other is the administrative tasks that are important to the overall process that have nothing to do with actual creativity. For example, just like an artist needs to clean their brushes, a video editor needs to upload their video. Those are administrative tasks, and those are wonderful for AI to take part in without losing your creativity. But I don't want to confuse perceived productivity with creativity. Those are different things. Creativity is when your brain is able to take things that you've learned and experiences you've had and bring those together into unexpected ways. And the beauty of that is it creates, in human terms, it adds dopamine, cortisone, and oxytocin to your brain, which produces happiness and joy. And so there's always going to be this segment of people who, and a huge market for people that already know what true creativity is and are experiencing this sort of happiness drug from it. And so when someone like me, who is frankly addicted to editing, I've been editing for 40 years, and like, if I have a chance, you find me editing, I'll be giggling because I'm like, I've done something and I'm getting so much joy from it. So there's always going to be people like me who just want to do that combining of ideas on their own, whereas AI can do that combining for you at billions of times a second. So if you're not really wanting to be creative, you're just wanting to produce, then AI is absolutely a perfect tool for you to use. But in LumaFusion, which is LumaTouch's video editor, we are catering to that person that is getting the joy from the individual creation and the combining of ideas and the creating of the story. And I do believe there's a full market there for that kind of love of creativity. I don't want to say there's not a huge, much bigger market for AI. Absolutely, there is. But I still think that companies shouldn't, everyone shouldn't jump on that, because we could lose what is not only a way to enjoy your life more, but it's also a way that humans develop and evolve and emerge and connect and all these things. So I think what I see could be a problem here is that at that lower end, when you're coming into the market and you see so many easy ways to create, and creativity is like more of a habit. You get into it, you have to learn it, you have to learn your craft and kind of and experience that before you start doing it habitually. And only through habit and through constant practicing do you get to the level of Hollywood or people that are making our best movies, our best TV, things that transform public opinion. They transform our lives. They make us grow into better humans. So in my perspective, I love AI. I love when I mean, oh gosh, I love using it myself as a tool for me, but I don't think, I think the problem is with a deluge of AI content. I don't know how an individual creator will compete with that enough to make a living. It might be enough to have a hobby and have a great life, but it's not enough, when billion to one is some authentic content. It might be really hard to compete and therefore really hard to get into the industry. So.
Great, thanks. And that really nicely kind of leads on to the next question, which I'd like to bring to the panel, which is around the evolution of how you productize creator tools and how this has been impacted, not just by AI, but also the growing overall opportunity. So, Terry, I think I'd like to start with you there, because what you have at LumaTouch is clearly a very close relationship with creators, and there's that level of interaction that is perhaps slightly more distinct than some other potential creator tools businesses. Could you talk around how you could envisage or how you think about the role of having that very targeted approach, where it's a creativity led approach as opposed to being a productized approach, and how that will help you navigate the evolving landscape that Ben identified in his keynote presentation?
Well, I think that, like I said, there's always going to be a market for products that focus on authentic and organic creativity, because there's people who are addicted to that. And the demand for authenticity will drive forward some products that maintain trust with their creators and their customer base by avoiding heavy reliance on AI and focusing more on AI that does administrative tasks for them. So that's what we will plan to do, is to use not only that kind of AI that isn't, and that's a judgment call, but I'm the co-founder, so I can say, hey, I think that's going too far. So we'll focus on things that I feel are not joyful activities. They're just, you have to upload, so let's do it, right? We have to have different formats and different frame rates and whatever, but avoid taking away from the creative storytelling. And I think that over time, audiences will begin to crave that authenticity and that genuinely human created content as well. Yeah, so I think there's a market for both, but I think to be in that market for creativity, you're going to have to be pristinely dedicated to that and have some real guidelines as to what you're going to do, because your customers will want to trust you as a place to go to experience their creativity. Very different than I just need to get a video out every day. And that is totally a market. I agree, but it's just not the market I'm in.
Okay, thank you. Matt, I want to come to you next because Krotos is in that fascinating position of straddling two distinct industries, the Hollywood industry and the creator industry. How much of what Terry's saying about that importance of having that direct interaction with your user base, how much does that apply to what Krotos is doing? And do you have to steal a line from Ben's presentation, rather than trifurcate, do you have to bifurcate to be able to make sure you address both of your core customer bases when you're doing that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Yeah, it's an interesting challenge. I mean, the really exciting thing for me when we started down this road, sort of trying to split our effort in a way and go in two different directions, was that in a way that they're actually one direction, and the problems and challenges faced by both those sets of people, there's an enormous overlap with them. I like Ben's trifurcation thing, and that on the two sides, one was speed and one was control. Like I find that our users really want both, like because they do need to move at speed, but they also need control over things. Because if you move at speed and you have no control, it's like driving a car and you're going to crash, which is not what our users want to do. So I find that to be the case with both these worlds. So professionals working in Hollywood and creators and video editors working on very different things. It's for the same reasons that Terry described. I mean, these are still highly creative people with a vision in mind. Like, our role here is to help them get to the sounds in their minds and the content they have. Like, that's really our only role here. And I think that need is shared across those markets and those groups of people. And I think AI is just another tool in the tool set, I think, for me to help with those problems. That's the bottom line of it. It helps them with different ways to solve those problems, maybe at different speeds with different degrees of control. So I think there's enormous overlap between all those things. And for me, they're different degrees of the same problem. That's what seems to be ringing out to me through all the work that we've done in this area over the last couple of years.
Okay, thank you. Scott, I'd like to move on to you next, because I know Bright Cove has a focus around offering a suite of functionality to be able to address all the potential requirements of your addressable marketplace. And you have a strapline about a one-click easy approach. Could you just talk a bit more about that and how you deploy that to be able to address the potential needs of your customers in the video creator tools landscape?
Yeah, thanks. So when we look at the suite of services the Bright Cove offers, we're doing things like the World Cup, right, and streaming those big media events. And on a different hand, you're doing a webinar like this one to your audiences, to a marketer who wants to get a message out to one person or two people or six people or a salesperson. When you look at that suite, the capabilities have to scale. They have to always support trust. They have to support reliability, and they have to support openness. And if you start with that mindset that our platform is open, then it allows us to have the flexibility to meet the businesses, our customers, the marketers, the content creators, everybody that has a mission for getting their voice out to whomever they want to, where they need to be. So when we think about how AI helps us with that, it accelerates the process. It connects the content and enhances it. What's an example of that that's really good is metadata, right? I want my creative story to be the greatest thing out there, but I need it to be discoverable by everyone that's out there. Hey, what if I created all the descriptions that'll be great for Terry, slightly different than Matthew, slightly different than Vikram? Wow, that's a one-click. Make it easy for them. But never move away from the editorial voice of control, right? If you want to let the AI do it, great. We're all behind that. But we always want the human to have that trust that what they're doing is great. So that goes into one element. The second one is, because of that modularity, we can meet our customers where they need to. big media company wants integration into the tools that they have. A creator that really wants to sing in her or his voice, let's give them a solution that makes it easy for them to do it. And the final bucket, that one-click thing, is there's a lot of data that lives out there. AI is creating it, tools give it to you, usage data, it's all over the place. How do we make it simple for you as a brand, you as a creator, you as an enterprise, you as a media entity, to really find the insights? Because data is everywhere. But if you can't act on it, I'm not sure what it does for you. But insights you can act on is where we drive our hardest. And that whole thing, all those elements have different components that Brightcove uses AI to do today. And we want to make the AI help us do it faster. So that one-click easy thing, maybe it's working with a partner, like Vikram said earlier, towards bringing in a really great content creation tool that works for learning, slightly different than a creator like Terry, who wants to have a tool set that works and wows and delights her audience in the way she needs. Her needs might be different than a marketer's. Let's solve them by bringing in partners that meet the best and brightest solutions out there. We don't need to do everything ourselves. As a matter of fact, I love working with the greatest people out there, because then you can have that trust.
Great. Thank you, Scott. So, Vikram, it really nicely segues into the journey that Pictory's been on from launching to monetize the enterprise space, pivoting towards creators, and then moving back towards enterprise. And I know that driving that are two key factors which I'd like to talk a bit more about. One is the product-led growth approach to how you roll out your features to respond to the evolving marketplace, and also this concept of beachheads, creating the insight that Scott's talked about to be able to drive data-driven decision making in your product roadmap. Could you talk a bit about both aspects, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started out, we wanted to sell our Creator Suite to the enterprise marketing teams. And what we realized is, actually, I used to pitch this exact thing, speed versus control, but I was pitching it as ease of use versus flexibility. So ease of use will let you move faster. Flexibility will kind of, will have full control over things. And what we realized, we pivoted more towards speed. We tried to automate everything and make everything very easy to use. So it's almost the extreme of Terry's product, which is full control over all the creative elements. Ours was as much automation as possible. And because our vision was any PowerPoint user should be a video creator, not the artist, not the not the creative person. So when I went to the enterprise in the beginning, they wanted a lot more control. They had agency relationships who provided all that control. It was really hard to sell into larger companies in the beginning with this ease of use speed product that we had. So then we kind of decided to pivot towards SMBs and the creator economy. The 300 million number that Ben talked about, that was the kind of market that we saw, and we said, okay, let's go charge full bore into it. But it was a lot of individual creators and really tiny businesses, solopreneurs, and SMBs. They taught us a lot. Like, we learned a lot from that market about, there the buyer and the user are the same person. And Steve Jobs has this famous quote about, the more the distance between the buyer and the user, the harder it is to build a product. And if the buyer and the user are the same people, you are really like lucky to get that, and you can really improve the product fast. And we got that, and we were really able to improve the product fast. So now we're at this position where we're trying to get back into larger companies, because the challenge again, and as any of you who've sold into SMBs and the creator economy, will know the retention characteristics aren't awesome. People churn, they try things and they leave. So the ideal thing is you go to businesses and larger businesses, creators in those businesses. And so we are trying to get there, but there we are trying to take a very crossing the chasm approach of trying to find beachheads within an industry or an organization that we can satisfy all the needs for before we capture the bigger segment. And we're right now, our beachhead is e-learning material, educational videos that a lot of learning and development teams within organizations make, and that's who we're going after.
Great, thank you, Vikram. Now we're going to move on to the question and answer section of the webinar. So we've got a few minutes to answer some of the questions that have been coming in. So I'm going to go to Ben for the first question here. So Ben, could you answer a question that's come in about, do we have a definition of a video creator as is represented by the figure of 302 million? Is it someone who describes themselves as more than a casual creator or poster?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Leora. The way we think about it is an individual who majors in video creation. So they may sort of dabble in other tools as well, whether it's graphic design or royalty-free music, etc. But their real focus is video creation, and we measure that up the chain. So that's enthusiasts, and hobbyists, all the way up to serious professionals. So these are individuals who consider themselves video creators.
Great, thanks, Ben. And the next question is for you, Scott. So we've got a question from Alexandra. So which data points do you feed back to the creator's social media API data trends, or what else? Thank you.
Yeah, so we have a set of data. Thanks for the question, by the way. We have a set of data that gets pulled in from the dashboard on usage, views, and we pull it across a variety of the social platforms like YouTube, Facebook as an example, LinkedIn, if you're using that as well. I'm actually looking at the panel over here on my side. That's one side, so we're pulling back those metrics in. The other side is we also have a set of services and products and solutions that really think about that insights that I was talking about earlier. And one of those is think of it like a net promoter score for video. We call it an attention index. It sort of takes the usage and says, did somebody click on that for 1 second and then leave? Maybe they really didn't want to watch that, but you usually count that as a view in some way, shape, or form. So when you're taking some of that data, you get these, I don't want to call them false positives, but maybe not the right things, versus the users that came in that watched the whole thing. They are loving that. We take that and we create a score for you to show you, here's this content is really, really singing, and gives you the data points that says, make more of that, or make more of that maybe a little shorter or a little longer. Or if you were going to do it with advertising, maybe put another ad break in or less ad breaks. That's the vision for what we're talking about here, which is giving you the data and making the recommendations with AI and going even one step further, if you wanted to automate them. Thanks for the question.
Thanks, Scott. So we've got time for one more question, which has come through from John Burke about the implications for copyright with AI platforms. So the question is, which AI platform do you use? Is it ChatGPT by OpenAI, where all the products report back to a central learning server for applications and future product uses? This clearly presents copyright issues. So I'm opening that up to the panel generally. Would anyone like to answer that question? If not, I'll put Ben on the spot, and Ben will answer on behalf of media.
Well, I wouldn't mind just quickly mentioning the combination of copyright issues and privacy issues means there's a whole nother way of looking at privacy. We used to look at privacy as, okay, nobody has my bank data, but now privacy means the media you create isn't going to be used by someone else for monetization purposes. So I'm going to leave that with that and let someone else answer the question.
Great. Would any of the other panelists like to contribute to the answer?
Yeah, I can. Sorry, Vikram. I think I'll jump in very quickly. Yeah, this is a really interesting one. I think I don't know about everyone else, but I've kind of really felt like a kind of shift in the last couple of months, like in the kind of creator world, where I think people are becoming really, really wary of this question now. I think a year ago, people were so excited by the tech that they were less worried about the implications of copyright or the use or misuse of training data or even the outputs of things. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, with ChatGPT, you need to be really careful what you actually give it. You know, you hear horror stories of people uploading, actual, private company information into ChatGPT as part of a working process, which you obviously need to be really, really careful about. I think it's something that's going to become more and more prevalent throughout all types of Gen AI and uses of AI, and I think it's going to be a really important thing to people, like more and more. And even like example, the litigation against music AI companies, even this week, I think that's like the start of this kind of wave of reconsidering the importance of copyright, of not only the output but also the input of all these models and all these things. And I think as companies, we need to be really, really careful about that and really responsible about it.
I'd like to just add on to that. Last week, Adobe had a huge backlash by changing their privacy policy to make way for their AI features. And it was the awakening of people saying, oh, wait a minute, you mean my content isn't my own anymore? Someone else can monetize that content through different products and services based on AI. And I think that not only that, but the Apple's crushing of creativity advertisement debacle that they did, where they crushed all these things into iPad. People are beginning to say, hold on a minute, don't mess with my creations, don't mess with my creativity, and how is my work being used by someone else, and is that right? I think it's a huge issue.
Yeah, I'll take the answer too. So we do use OpenAI APIs for many of the AI tasks, and the API documentation says that they won't use that data for training, and you can still explicitly opt out of it, even though it's by default it's opt out, or you can explicitly opt in to allow that data to be used for training. So by default, API doesn't use the API data is not used for future training.
Thanks. And Scott?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting use case also, or point to talk about as we think about some of the different kind of segments. If you're taking content that you own already, using an AI may allow you to create derivatives of the content you own very, very quickly. So the copyright issues may be slightly different there than creation something from OpenAI. It also extends down the value chain into the data about the users and personalization, and using AI to inform things like this. What happens if you're taking PII data and passing it into an AI engine? You want to be careful around those things. And the flip is it creates an opportunity to create, I don't want to call it trusted sandboxes, but something like that, where data can be shared and anonymized and allow you to still get the benefits of an OpenAI or Amazon's products or Google or beyond, and keep the privacy and protection that you wanted to. I think that's going to be a really interesting thing for the next couple of years, is how we do this and let AIs help us with that automation and provide trust and safety. It's one of our missions.
Great, thank you. Well, that's all we've got time for on the questions front. We've come up against the hour. I'd like to thank the panel. This has been a fascinating discussion, and thank you very much for your time and your insights. And also, I'd like to thank the audience as well for making the time to be available to listen to how we view the market and Midia's research around this. As Ben mentioned, we're going to be publishing a landmark report on the video creator tools landscape in the coming months. So you're all on the mailing list, so you'll be able to find out much more about that as we move towards a release date. And now I'm going to hand you back to Sion.
Before we conclude, I would like to express my gratitude to our panelists and analysts for sharing their valuable insights. I also want to thank everyone who joined us today. I trust you found this session informative and valuable. As a token of our appreciation, we'll be sending a copy of today's presentation and a link to rewatch the webinar to everyone who RSVP'd. If you have any questions after the webinar that we haven't had the opportunity to answer, we would love to continue the conversation. So please email info@mediaresearch.com. If you would like to get more information or would like to get access to the State of the Video Creator Tools Economy report, please email anthony@mediaresearch.com. Thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to continuing the conversation.